Captain Hyunwoo stared at the massive alien ship through the view screen of the new Seoul. The vessel was 3 times larger than his exploration ship, covered in dark metal that seemed to drink in the light from nearby stars. Strange symbols glowed along its hull like angry red eyes. "Sir, they're sending another message," said So Young from her position at the navigation station. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel, trying to clean up the alien transmission. Same demand as before. Hyunwoo nodded grimly. For the past hour, the alien ship had been repeating the same message in broken human language. They wanted complete surrender. They wanted Earth's location. They wanted humanity to bow down to something called the Galactic Trade Federation. "Any response from Earth Command?" asked Taemin, looking up from his engineering console. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool air in the ship's bridge. "Nothing yet," Hyunwoo replied. "We're too far out. Our messages won't reach Earth." For another 6 hours, the new Seoul had been humanity's first real attempt at deep space exploration. After decades of sending unmanned probes beyond their solar system, humans had finally built a ship capable of carrying a crew to other star systems. Hyunwoo and his team of 23 had been traveling for 8 months when they encountered the alien vessel near a red dwarf star. The first contact had not gone well. "Captain," So Young said, her voice tight with worry. "They're moving closer." On the screen, the alien ship drifted toward them like a predator stalking prey. Hyunwoo could see weapon ports opening along its sides. Whatever these aliens wanted, they were prepared to take it by force. "Open a channel," Hyunwoo ordered. The view screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at the bridge of the alien ship. The creature that appeared made several crew members gasp. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, with gray-green skin stretched over a frame that looked both insect-like and reptilian. 4 arms extended from its torso, each ending in hands with 2, many fingers, but it was the eyes that made Hyunwoo's skin crawl. 6 black orbs arranged around what might have been a face, all focused on him with obvious contempt. "Human vessel," the creature spoke in heavily accented English. "I am Admiral Forthak of the Keth Empire. You will surrender your ship and provide the location of your homeworld." "I'm Captain Hyunwoo of the Terran vessel New Seoul," he replied, keeping his voice steady. "We're on a peaceful exploration mission. We have no quarrel with your empire." Forthak's mouth opened, revealing rows of sharp teeth in what might have been laughter. "Peaceful? You primitive species dare to travel between stars without permission from the Federation. You contaminate space with your presence." "Permission?" Hyunwoo felt anger rising in his chest. "Since when do we need permission to explore space?" "Since the Federation claimed dominion over this galaxy 3,000 years ago," Forthak hissed. "Your species is young and ignorant. You know nothing of galactic law. You will surrender now, or we will take your ship by force." Behind Hyunwoo, he heard Taemin whisper, "Sir, our weapons are nothing compared to theirs." It was true. The new Seoul carried only basic defensive systems and some mining lasers. They had never expected to encounter hostile aliens on their first voyage beyond Earth's solar system. "What happens if we surrender?" Hyunwoo asked. "Your crew will be processed as specimens," Forthak replied casually. "Your ship will be studied. Your homeworld coordinates will be extracted from your navigation computers. Then the Federation will decide whether your species is worthy of slavery or extinction." The bridge fell silent. So Young turned in her chair, her face pale. Taemin stopped pretending to work at his console. Every crew member was looking at their captain, waiting for his decision. Hyunwoo thought about Earth. He thought about the billions of people who had no idea that hostile aliens existed. He thought about his wife Miran, who worked at the Seoul Space Center, and his daughter Hayun, who was just starting university. They deserved better than slavery or extinction. "Admiral Forthak," Hyunwoo said slowly, "I have a counteroffer." The alien's 6 eyes narrowed. "You are not in a position to make offers, human. Go to hell." The words hung in the air for a moment. Forthak's face twisted into something that definitely wasn't laughter. "You refuse to surrender?" "I refuse to condemn my species to slavery," Hyunwoo said. "If you want our ship, you'll have to take it." "So be it." Vorthak gestured with one of his forearms. Your defiance will be noted when we interrogate your remains. The transmission cut off. On the view screen, the alien ship's weapon ports began to glow with ominous energy. All hands prepare for combat, Hyunwoo announced over the ship's intercom. This is not a drill. Sir, So Young said quietly. Should I try to send a warning? To Earth? Hyunwoo nodded. Send everything. Our location, the alien ship's capabilities, what they told us about the Federation. Use the emergency quantum burst transmitter. But sir, that will drain our entire power core, Taemin protested. We won't have energy for shields or weapons. Doesn't matter, Hyunwoo replied. If we're going to die out here, Earth needs to know what's coming. Has So Young worked frantically at her station, preparing humanity's first and possibly last message about hostile alien contact. Hyunwoo stared at the approaching enemy ship. He had no idea that his defiance was about to change the course of galactic history. On Earth, in an underground facility beneath the Seoul Space Center, Director Mi Kyung received the quantum burst transmission just as alarms began blaring throughout the complex. She read the message twice, her face growing pale with each word. Then she reached for a red phone that had been waiting for this call for 30 years. Activate Shadow Protocol, she said into the receiver. They found us. The person on the other end asked no questions. Within minutes, hidden bases across Earth and throughout the solar system received the same message. Humanity's real preparations were about to begin. The aliens thought they had discovered a primitive species taking its first steps into space. They had no idea they had just declared war on something that had been waiting in the shadows for exactly this moment. 3 weeks after the new Seoul went silent, the Keth Armada arrived at Earth's solar system. Admiral Vorthak commanded a fleet of 50 warships, each one capable of destroying entire cities. His scouts had spent days studying the human home system, and what they found made him confident in victory. Earth had only a few orbital stations and some basic defensive platforms. No massive battle fleets, no impressive space fortifications. The humans seemed to rely on primitive chemical, rockets and simple fusion drives. Their largest ships were cargo haulers and research vessels. Pathetic, Vorthak muttered as he studied the tactical display. These creatures barely deserve to be called a spacefaring species. His bridge crew agreed with eager chittering sounds. The Keth had conquered dozens of worlds, and this would be easier than most. The humans would surrender quickly once they saw the hopelessness of resistance. But something bothered Vorthak. The human ship captain's defiance had been unexpected. Most primitive species begged for mercy when faced with superior force. Hyunwoo had chosen death instead of surrender. It suggested these humans might be more stubborn than anticipated. Begin the attack, Vorthak ordered. Target their orbital installations first. Leave the planet intact. We need live specimens for study. The Keth ships spread out in attack formation and moved toward Earth, their weapons charged with deadly energy, ready to announce the Federation's dominance to this young species. That's when things started going wrong. Jin-ho floated in the cargo, hold of his ship, the Lucky Star, pretending to check inventory manifests. To any observer, he looked like an ordinary freight pilot making routine runs between Mars and the asteroid belt. His ship appeared old and barely functional, held together with patches and hope. The appearance was carefully crafted deception. When the Keth fleet entered the solar system, Jin-ho received a coded signal that had been years in the making. Around him, dozens of other civilian ships received the same message. Suddenly, the asteroid belt came alive with hidden activity. Jin-ho's fingers moved over a concealed control panel. The Lucky Star's outer hull began to shift and change. Fake rust fell away, revealing advanced armor plating. Hidden weapon ports opened. The ship's true engine came online, generating power levels that would have impressed the Keth if they had detected it. But they didn't detect it. That was the point. The Shadow Fleet had been living in space for 15 years, disguised as miners, traders, and salvage crews. They had learned to survive on minimal resources, to repair anything that broke, to remain invisible in the vast emptiness between worlds. They had become something new, humans who belonged in the vacuum of space as much as they belonged on Earth. As the Keth ships approached Earth, They passed through what seemed like empty space filled with harmless debris and civilian traffic. They had no idea they were flying into a carefully prepared trap. The first Keth ship simply vanished. One moment it was there on sensors, advancing with the rest of the fleet. The next moment, nothing. No explosion, no distress signal, no wreckage. It was as if the ship had never existed. Vorthak stared at his tactical display in confusion. Navigation error, he decided. The ship must have miscalculated its jump coordinates. Then a second ship disappeared. Then a third. "Admiral," his sensor operator called out, voice tight with worry. "I'm detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout this system. Something is interfering with our sensors." On Earth, Yunji stood in what appeared to be an ordinary electronics repair shop in Seoul. The basement, however, contained communication equipment that could coordinate resistance activities across the planet. She had been living a double life for 12 years, waiting for this day. "All cells are active," she reported into her headset. "The shadows are engaging the enemy fleet." Around the world, similar scenes played out. A teacher in Tokyo activated a hidden weapons cache beneath her school. A doctor in New York began distributing combat gear that had been disguised as medical supplies. A shopkeeper in London opened a concealed armory that had been built into his store's foundation. Humanity's true nature was revealing itself. The Shadow Fleet struck without warning. Ships that had seemed like harmless cargo haulers suddenly bristled with weapons. Space stations that appeared to be simple research facilities unleashed devastating attacks. Even the space junk floating throughout the solar system turned out to be camouflaged weapon platforms. But it was more than just hidden weapons. The humans fought in ways the Keth couldn't understand. Jinho's ship seemed to vanish into the darkness between asteroids, only to reappear behind a Keth cruiser and deliver a crippling attack before disappearing again. Other human ships coordinated their movements with impossible precision, as if they could communicate without using detectable signals. The truth was even stranger. Years of living in space had changed the Shadow Fleet crews. They had developed an almost supernatural ability to navigate by instinct, to sense danger before their instruments detected it, to know where their teammates were without needing radio contact. They had become apex predators in an environment where the Keth were still awkward visitors. "How are they doing this?" Vorthak demanded as his fleet continued to suffer losses. "Our sensors show nothing but civilian ships and space debris." "Sir," his tactical officer replied, "I think the civilian ships are the problem. Every time one of our vessels disappears, there's a civilian craft nearby." "Then destroy all civilian traffic," Vorthak ordered. It was exactly the wrong decision. When the Keth began targeting harmless human ships, the disguises came off completely. The Lucky Star and hundreds of vessels like it revealed their true capabilities. What had seemed like a ragtag collection of merchants and miners became a coordinated battle fleet that moved through space like a school of predatory fish. The humans didn't just fight back. They hunted. Keth ships found themselves isolated from the main fleet, picked off one by enemies they couldn't track. Human vessels seemed to appear from nowhere, strike with devastating precision, and vanish back into the cosmic background. Wu Jin coordinated the Earth-based resistance from a bunker hidden beneath the Seoul metropolitan area. His network included former military personnel, but also civilians who had been secretly trained for this moment. They weren't just soldiers. They were accountants who could crack alien financial systems, engineers who could reverse engineer captured technology, and linguists who had been studying intercepted alien communications for decades. "The orbital phase is complete," Wu Jin reported to his superiors. "Enemy fleet strength reduced by 60%. Remaining ships are retreating to defensive positions." On his screens, he could see the Keth fleet clustering together in obvious fear. They had expected to face primitive human defenses. Instead, they had encountered something that struck from the shadows and vanished like ghosts. Admiral Vorthak's confidence was completely shattered. In less than 6 hours, his mighty fleet had been reduced to less than 20 ships. The humans hadn't used massive battle cruisers or advanced technology. They had used deception, coordination, and an intimate knowledge of their own space. "Send A message to High Command, he ordered. Request immediate reinforcements. These humans are not what they seem. What should I tell them about the nature of the threat? His communications officer asked. Vorthak looked at the tactical display showing his decimated fleet surrounded by empty space that had somehow become deadly. Tell them we're not fighting a civilization, he said grimly. We're fighting ghosts. The emergency session of the Galactic Trade Federation Council took place on the crystal world of Nexus Prime. Representatives from 3 major species gathered around a massive holographic display showing the remains of Vorthak's fleet. Impossible, declared High Counselor Zerkan of the crystalline Zektar race. His body was a living formation of blue-white crystal that rang like wind chimes when he moved. A primitive species cannot defeat Keth military technology. The evidence speaks otherwise, replied Hive Speaker Dalmor of the Rule Collective. The insectoid alien's compound eyes reflected the hologram's light as hundreds of smaller Ruul drones stood motionless behind her. The humans have capabilities we did not detect. Admiral Vorthak, his gray-green skin scarred from the battle, stepped forward. Honored counselors, these humans are not primitive. They have been preparing for this encounter. Preparing how? Zerkan's crystal form flashed with skeptical colors. Our scouts detected no advanced military installations, no significant space navy, no weapons of mass destruction. That's exactly the problem, Vorthak replied. Everything we saw was camouflage. Their civilian ships are warships. Their space debris is weapon platforms. Their entire solar system is a trap. The Council debated for hours while, back in Earth's solar system, Dr. Dong-hyun worked frantically in his hidden laboratory beneath the Antarctic ice. For 20 years, he had been humanity's secret weapons specialist, developing countermeasures for alien technologies they weren't supposed to know existed. The wreckage from Vorthak's fleet had provided exactly what he needed. Fascinating, Dong-hyun murmured as he examined a piece of Keth hull plating under his microscope. Their armor adapts to energy weapons by redistributing molecular bonds. But if we introduce nanites that disrupt the redistribution pattern, his assistant, Dr. Young-min, looked up from his own workstation. What about the Zektar crystal technology? Even better, Dong-hyun smiled. Their crystals operate on harmonic frequencies. We can reprogram them using sonic weapons tuned to specific resonances, turn their own technology against them. Across the laboratory, teams of scientists worked on biological samples recovered from destroyed Keth ships. They had already identified weaknesses in alien immune systems, discovered ways to disrupt their communication methods, and developed targeted viruses that would turn alien cybernetic implants into weapons against their hosts. But the real breakthrough came when Sumin's message arrived from deep space. Sumin had been drifting in the outer system for 3 months, officially conducting routine surveys of Kuiper Belt objects. Unofficially, she was waiting for this moment. When the Keth attacked, she activated a beacon that had been silent for 50 years. The response came from beyond Pluto's orbit. This is Captain Ye Jin of the Eternal Wanderer, the transmission began. We received your signal. The outer colonies are ready. Sumin nearly cried with relief. The plan had worked. Humanity's greatest secret was about to be revealed. 50 years earlier, Earth had secretly launched 12 generation ships toward distant star systems. The public knew about 3 of them. The other 9 had departed in complete secrecy, carrying colonists, advanced technology, and orders to establish hidden human settlements throughout the galaxy. The Eternal Wanderer was just one of dozens of ships now converging on Earth's solar system. As they emerged from quantum jumps at the system's edge, their capabilities became clear. These weren't the simple fusion drives and chemical rockets the aliens had observed around Earth. These were ships powered by technologies the Federation didn't even possess. Gravity manipulation drives that could bend space-time. Quantum stealth systems that made entire fleets invisible. Consciousness transfer networks that allowed human crews to share thoughts and coordinate perfectly. The outer colonies had spent 50 years developing in isolation, pushing human science and evolution in directions no alien species had imagined. Junsu commanded the Mars Underground Complex, a vast facility that extended kilometers beneath the planet's surface. When the outer colony fleets began arriving, he activated systems that had been dormant for decades. "Reveal the deep installations," he ordered. Across the solar system, what appeared to be barren moons and empty asteroids suddenly came alive with activity. Hidden bases that had been disguised as natural geology deployed massive weapon systems. Underground factories began producing ships and weapons using resources the aliens hadn't even detected. The Federation's scouts had seen only the surface of human civilization. Beneath that surface lay an industrial capacity that dwarfed anything in known space. But it was the arrival of Captain Yejin's fleet that truly shocked the surviving Keth forces. The Eternal Wanderer emerged from quantum space like a ghost materializing from another dimension. It was unlike any ship in Federation records. Its hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Energy patterns that defied physics played across its surface. When it moved, space itself seemed to bend around it. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself," Admiral Vorthak transmitted, his voice shaking despite his efforts to maintain authority. Captain Yejin's response came in perfect Keth language, spoken with an accent that suggested decades of familiarity. "Are the shadows you feared, Admiral? We are what awaits in the darkness between stars. We are humanity." The view screen flickered, and Vorthak found himself staring at a human who looked subtly wrong. Yejin's eyes had adapted to see across more of the electromagnetic spectrum. Her skin showed modifications that allowed her to survive in hard vacuum. Her movements suggested bones and muscles that had evolved beyond baseline human norms. Behind her, the bridge crew showed similar adaptations. These weren't just humans who had traveled to other stars. These were humans who had become something new. "You declared war on Earth," Yejin continued. "You made a mistake. Earth is not humanity's only world. It's not even our most important world, it's just the one we let you find." As if to emphasize her point, more ships began emerging from quantum space. Each one was different, reflecting the unique development paths of different colonies. Some were biological constructs that seemed more grown than built. Others appeared to be pure energy held in technological containment fields. A few defied easy categorization entirely. "How many?" Vorthak whispered. "How many worlds? How many ships? How many humans?" Yejin's smile was predatory. "We've been spreading through this galaxy for longer than your species has had spaceflight. We just never saw a reason to announce ourselves. Until now," she added, "the Federation forces found themselves surrounded by technologies they couldn't understand, facing enemies who seemed to know everything about alien capabilities while revealing none of their own limitations. You wanted war," Yejin broadcast to the entire Keth fleet. "You attacked our people. You threatened our home. Now you'll learn why intelligent species should be very careful about what they hunt in the dark." The human ships began moving in perfect coordination, their movements guided by shared consciousness networks that made traditional military communication obsolete. They didn't attack immediately. Instead, they demonstrated their capabilities in ways that left no doubt about the outcome of any continued conflict. A single human ship approached a disabled Keth cruiser and began systematically taking it apart, without weapons, using gravity manipulation to disassemble the hull plate by plate. Another ship simply vanished a section of asteroid, demonstrating matter displacement technology that could erase ships from existence. "Surrender," Yejin offered, "or continue fighting a war you never had any chance of winning." Admiral Vorthak looked at his tactical display and realized that everything the Federation thought they knew about galactic civilization was wrong. Humanity wasn't a new species taking its first steps into space. They were the apex predators, who had been living in the shadows all along, waiting for someone to give them an excuse to reveal themselves. The emergency transmission reached every corner of the galaxy within hours. Admiral Vorthak's desperate message spread through Federation space like wildfire, carrying news that would reshape the political structure of known civilization. "All Federation forces, this is Admiral Vorthak of the 7th Fleet. The humans are not what we believed. Request immediate evacuation from Sol system. We are dealing with a species that has been concealing their true capabilities for decades. They have been among us. Repeat, they have been living among us. On the Zektar homeworld, High Counselor Zerkan's crystal form darkened with confusion as he processed the transmission. Living among us? Impossible. We would have detected alien infiltrators. But even as he spoke, disturbing reports began flooding in from across Zektar space. Trusted traders who had been conducting business for years were now revealed to be something else entirely. Their biosignatures were wrong. Their knowledge of Zektar culture was too perfect. Their accents had subtle flaws that suggested learned, rather than native speech. The revelation hit the Rule Collective even harder. Hive speaker Dalmore discovered that several of her own drones had been reporting to unknown sources. When she tried to trace the infiltration, she found that it went back generations. Humans had somehow inserted themselves into the Rule breeding cycle, creating hybrid organisms that could pass as native Rule while maintaining human consciousness. But it was in the heart of Keth space that the most shocking discovery occurred. Min Ho had been living on the Keth military world of Sekthar for 18 years. To everyone around him, he appeared to be a Keth citizen named Vor Malik. His gray-green skin was perfect. His 4 arms moved with natural coordination. His 6 eyes showed the proper emotional responses. The disguise was so complete that he had risen through the ranks of Keth intelligence services, eventually becoming a trusted advisor to military commanders. He had access to classified battle plans, weapon specifications, and strategic communications. When the war began, Minho activated a network that even he hadn't fully known existed. Priority transmission to all deep cover operatives, he spoke, into a communicator disguised as a standard Keth device. Shadow protocol is active. Begin intelligence harvest and sabotage operations. Across the galaxy, dozens of similar messages went out. Humans who had spent decades building lives among alien species suddenly revealed their true purpose. They weren't refugees or explorers. They were advanced scouts and intelligence assets. Within hours, every major Federation computer network was compromised. Military communications began showing signs of interference. Supply lines that had operated smoothly for decades suddenly experienced mysterious failures. On Nexus Prime, the Federation Council convened an emergency session as their carefully ordered galaxy began falling apart around them. "How is this possible?" demanded Counselor Thekran of the minor Veltok species. "Our security protocols should have detected any biological masquerade." "Unless," Zerkan said slowly, his crystal form flickering with realizations. "They're not using masquerades, unless they've actually modified themselves to become us." The implications were terrifying. It suggested a level of biotechnology that exceeded anything in Federation science. More than that, it suggested a species willing to sacrifice their own physical form to gather intelligence. From her command center in the asteroid belt, Ga Young coordinated the largest intelligence operation in galactic history. Her screens showed data streams from hundreds of human operatives scattered across dozens of worlds. Real-time information about Federation fleet movements, political discussions, economic vulnerabilities, and military capabilities flowed through her networks. "Phase 2 is complete," she reported to her superiors on Earth. "We have full intelligence penetration of all major Federation systems, beginning Phase 3 now." Phase 3 was the demonstration. Across Federation space, carefully planted human operatives began revealing the extent of their infiltration, not through violence or destruction, but through impossible displays of knowledge and capability. On the Zektar research world of Felnara, a Zektar scientist named Kyung Min suddenly began speaking perfect human languages that she had never officially encountered. She demonstrated understanding of human technology that exceeded even human public knowledge. When challenged, she calmly explained that she had been observing and reporting on Zektar research for 15 years. "Your quantum crystal matrices are impressive," she told the shocked Zektar researchers. "But you've been approaching the resonance equations incorrectly. We solved that problem 8 years ago." To prove her point, she activated a device that had been hidden in the laboratory for months. Suddenly, every Zektar crystal in the facility began operating at efficiency levels they had never achieved before. Similar demonstrations occurred throughout Federation space. Humans revealed that they had not only been watching alien development, but actively improving alien technology without anyone noticing. Food production facilities operated by human infiltrators were producing higher yields. Transportation networks managed by human agents were running more efficiently. Even military equipment maintained by human aliens was performing better than original specifications. The message was clear. Humanity hadn't just been spying on the Federation, they had been making it better. HFY specialized in psychological warfare, and her masterpiece was the revelation that broke the Federation's will to fight. From her position deep within rule space, she began broadcasting a simple message to every connected device in the galaxy. Citizens of the Federation, the message began. You have lived alongside humans for decades. We have been your neighbors, your colleagues, your friends. We have helped build your worlds, improve your technology, and strengthen your societies. We never intended harm. We only wanted to understand. The broadcast continued with a comprehensive list of every human contribution to Federation civilization, medical advances that had saved millions of lives, engineering improvements that had made space travel safer, agricultural techniques that had ended famines on dozens of worlds. We could have revealed ourselves as conquerors, the message concluded. Instead, we chose to be partners. The war was not our choice. But now that it has begun, you must understand what you're truly fighting. The psychological impact was devastating. Every Federation citizen suddenly realized that their civilization's greatest achievements had been enhanced by the very species they were supposed to fear. The humans weren't alien invaders. They were the helpful neighbors who had been quietly making everyone's lives better for generations. Admiral Vorthak's remaining ships found themselves surrounded not just by superior technology, but by the collapse of everything they thought they knew about galactic civilization. Sir, his communication officer reported, we're receiving surrender offers from our own colonies. 17 Keth worlds have declared neutrality. The Veltok Confederation has officially withdrawn from the Federation. And the humans? Vorthak asked wearily. They're just waiting, the officer replied. Their fleets maintain position around us, but they're not attacking. It's like they're giving us time to understand something. Vorthak stared at the tactical display showing human ships that defied physics surrounding his battered fleet. He was beginning to realize that the humans had never intended this to be a war. They had intended it to be a lesson. The lesson was simple. In a galaxy where humanity had been quietly helping everyone for decades, attacking them was not just strategically foolish, it was morally wrong. Open a channel to the human fleet, Vorthak ordered. I need to speak with their commander. Captain Yejin's face appeared on his screen, and this time her expression was almost sympathetic. Are you ready to discuss terms? She asked. I'm ready to discuss the truth, Vorthak replied. How long have you been watching us? Since before your species developed spaceflight, Yejin answered honestly. We've been here all along. You just never thought to look in the shadows. The neutral space station appeared ordinary enough from the outside. It drifted in the empty space between star systems, showing no obvious weapons or defenses. When Admiral Vorthak's shuttle approached the docking bay, everything seemed designed to make the Federation representatives feel safe. That was the first sign that nothing was what it seemed. Chan Wu greeted the delegation at the airlock, wearing simple diplomatic robes that suggested a minor bureaucrat rather than someone important. His manner was polite, even humble, as he escorted the aliens through corridors that looked hastily constructed and temporary. Welcome to Station Hope, he said in perfect Keth language. We appreciate your willingness to discuss terms. The Federation delegation included Admiral Vorthak, High Counselor Zerkan of the Zektar, and Hive Speaker Dalmor of the Rule. They had come expecting to negotiate with a species that had revealed unexpected military capabilities, but was still essentially primitive. They were led to a conference room that reinforced that impression. The furniture was basic. The walls were bare metal. The refreshments were simple water and basic nutrition supplements. Everything suggested a young species doing their best to appear civilized. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, Chan Wu began as they took their seats. Before we discuss terms, there are some things you should understand about the current situation. We understand perfectly. Zerrikan's crystal form chimed with authority. Your species has revealed hidden military capabilities. You wish to negotiate from a position of strength. This is normal warfare diplomacy. Chan Wu smiled sadly. I'm afraid it's more complicated than that. He touched a control panel and the room's walls became transparent. Suddenly, the delegation could see that they weren't in a hastily built station at all. They were inside a massive structure that stretched beyond the limits of vision. Corridors and chambers extended in all directions, filled with activity that suggested a population in the millions. Station Hope isn't a peace conference facility, Chan Wu explained. It's one of our older deep space habitats. We built it about 200 years ago. The aliens stared in shock at the revealed scope of the structure around them. 200 years? Dalmore's compound eyes reflected confusion. Your species only achieved spaceflight 70 years ago. No, Chan Wu corrected gently. Your species discovered our spaceflight 70 years ago. We've actually been traveling between stars for over 3 centuries. Another wall became transparent, revealing a vast chamber filled with ships of designs the Federation had never seen. Some appeared to be grown rather than built. Others seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. A few defied easy description entirely. I think, Chan Wu continued, there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of this conflict. The conference room's ceiling became transparent, showing them a view of the galaxy that made the delegation gasp. Thousands of lights marked human settlements scattered across the spiral arms. Trade routes connected distant systems in a network that spanned civilized space. You see, Chan Wu said, you didn't declare war on a planet. You declared war on the galaxy's shadow. Government. Bora entered the room as if summoned by the revelation, where Chan Wu had appeared humble and diplomatic. Bora radiated quiet authority that made the Federation representatives instinctively straighten in their seats. I apologize for the deception, she said, without appearing sorry at all. But we needed you to understand the true scope of the situation before we revealed who you're actually dealing with. She gestured, and a holographic display materialized above the conference table. It showed a 3-dimensional map of known space, but with details that no Federation database contained. For the past 4 centuries, humanity has been the galaxy's primary exploration and development force, Bora explained. We've surveyed every system, cataloged every resource, and established connections between every civilization. The display zoomed in on specific regions showing human installations hidden throughout Federation space. When your species achieved spaceflight, we were already there waiting. When the Zektar developed quantum crystal technology, our scientists were embedded in their research teams. When the rule evolved their collective consciousness, we had already figured out how to interface with it. Admiral Vorthok found his voice. You're saying that human agents have been involved in every major technological development in Federation history? Not just involved, Bora corrected. Guided, accelerated, improved. She touched another control, and the display showed a timeline of Federation technological advancement overlaid with human intervention points. Your warp drive efficiency increased by 30% after Dr. Minjae joined the Keth research team on Velkotor. Zektar crystal matrices became stable enough for large-scale use 6 months after our materials scientist, Yoon Soo, published her theoretical papers. Rule collective communication range expanded dramatically when our neural interface specialist, Jin'e, introduced certain biological modifications. The implications were staggering. Every major achievement in Federation science had been guided by human intelligence. But why? Zerrikan's crystal form flickered with confusion. Why help us? Develop while remaining hidden? Bora's expression became almost maternal. Because that's what we do. Humanity's gift isn't conquest or domination, it's improvement. We make things better. The room fell silent as the Federation representatives absorbed this revelation. They had spent decades believing they were part of an advanced galactic civilization. Instead, they had been unknowing participants in a vast human development project. The war, Dalmor asked slowly. Was it planned? No, Bora replied honestly. We hoped it would never be necessary, but we've learned to prepare for every possibility. She gestured again, and the display showed the current military situation. Human fleets surrounded every major Federation world, but not in attack positions. They were in protective formations. You see, Admiral Vorthak, you didn't just declare war on Earth. You threatened the galaxy's primary peacekeeping force. Every trade route you use is protected by human ships you can't see. Every diplomatic crisis is mediated by human agents. You've never noticed. Every technological disaster is prevented by human specialists working behind the scenes. You're saying, Vorthak said quietly, that we've been living in a human-managed galaxy this entire time. We prefer guided. Bora smiled. But yes, Shung Ho entered the room and his presence immediately changed the atmosphere. Unlike the diplomatic officials, he wore the uniform of the human galactic fleet. His bearing made it clear that he commanded forces beyond the Federation's ability to comprehend. The question now, he said, is what happens next. The holographic display shifted to show various possible futures. In some, the Federation continued its aggressive expansion under human guidance. In others, open cooperation replaced secret manipulation. A few showed Federation worlds integrated into broader human civilization. You have three choices, Xiong Ho explained. First, you can continue fighting a war you can't win. Second, you can surrender and accept human authority openly. Third, you can choose cooperation and become our true partners in galactic development. What does cooperation look like? Zer Khan asked. Yu Jin entered as if to answer that question. Where the others had represented military or political authority, she radiated the competence of someone who solved practical problems. Integration, she said simply. No more secret guidance, no more hidden human agents. Open collaboration on every project. Shared technology and resources. True partnership in galactic civilization. She gestured, and the display showed detailed plans for combined Human Federation research facilities, joint exploration missions, and integrated defense networks. We've spent centuries learning about your species, your capabilities, your potential, Yu Jin continued. We know what you can achieve with proper support. We'd like to find out what we can achieve together. Admiral Vorthak looked at his fellow representatives. They had come expecting to negotiate surrender terms or peace treaties. Instead, they were being offered membership in a galactic civilization that was far more advanced and extensive than they had ever imagined. If we agree to cooperation, he asked, what happens to our independence? You keep it, Bora replied. We're not interested in ruling anyone. We're interested in helping everyone reach their potential. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us to grow. The conference continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The Federation representatives gradually came to understand that they weren't negotiating with conquerors. They were being invited to join a community they had unknowingly been part of for centuries. As the formal agreements were signed, Chan Wu made one final revelation. You asked what awaits in the shadows, he said to Admiral Vorthak. The answer is hope. We've been waiting in the darkness not to destroy, but to help. Not to conquer, but to build. Not to rule, but to guide. The shadows you feared, he continued, were never your enemy. They were your future. Outside the conference room, human and alien crew members worked together to prepare for a new age of galactic cooperation. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. Humanity had finally stepped out of the shadows, and the galaxy would never be the same.